welcome Jonathan Moore, driver in the Junior Saloon Car Championship this season. It's great to have you on and for a chat. But first of all, how are you?
I'm all good. On a high after Coombe, so yeah, going well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really great weekend for you, which I'm sure we'll speak about in a little bit. And we're a good way through the season. But just to start off for people that might not know, tell us a bit about yourself and how long have you been driving in the Junior Saloon Car Championship?
So I'm Jonathan Moore. I've been driving in JSCC since 2022 now, so it doesn't feel like that long, but 2 years now. In my second full year, third year in the championship now, going for the championship. Um, it's going well. We're tied on points. Still second because we've not got as many wins as first. But in terms of points, we're there, which is the main thing. And yeah, just kind of focusing on taking each weekend step by step. Never really thinking about the final end of the year championship. No, not thinking about that. Sort of taking it step by step and see where we end up. More
Yeah.
so. I feel like if you're too focused on got to get points, it can actually have the opposite effect. At least for me, anyway. I know everyone's different, right? But yeah, for me, if I get too held up on something, too focused on something, it can have the opposite effect of what it needs to have. So yeah, just taking every weekend kind of step by step and see where we end up.
It's an interesting one, that isn't it, with the whole when you're going for a title, because it does impact you as a driver, doesn't it? What is that process? Does it change for you at all going into a race weekend where you're not just going to be gunning for race wins? You've got a sort of a bigger picture as well. What's that like for you, sort of as a dynamic for you as a driver?
Um, it's different to last year, definitely. Last year, our goal was to get top six in the championship, and we got third. So we really over delivered last year on what we expected. I say we, kind of me and the team, what we expected from me. Um, yeah, last year went really well. I put a lot of prep into last year because I've always known what I'm capable of, but it's often difficult to extract that.
Mhm.
You know, once in a while, but the difficult part is getting the best out of yourself weekends in, weekends out. And yeah, I put a lot of effort into last year. So many hours on the sim, things like that, just to try and refine. I'd made a lot of mistakes in 2022, as it being my first year, so just to try and refine those mistakes, iron them out. Obviously, we're still working on it. We're better again this year. A lot more consistent, a lot quicker in terms of actual outright pace. But yeah, still need to iron some things out. But we're getting there. And going into a weekend knowing I need to not need to win, but realistically need to win podium. It's I wouldn't say it's pressure. There's no pressure from the team really. It's all more so pressure from myself, and I know I won't name names, but I know a few drivers feel like that as well. It's difficult because, like I said, you always know, not just me, but any driver, we all know what we can do, what we're capable of. But like I said, the difficult part is extracting that, and when it doesn't go your way, it can really affect you.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, this year so far has been really good for you, and you've been able to see, looking back from what you've said, the progress you've made over the years. Overall, how would you sum up your time in the Junior Saloon Car Championship, and how good has it been for you and a place to start your car racing career?
Valuable, to be honest. We could have gone to karting. Being honest, I don't think there would have been any benefit going into karting. At least at the age I started, if we started 3 4 years earlier, then yeah, going into karting would have helped. But um, at the age I started, actually quite late for a career, I guess. Um, Going straight into karts is the best call because the main difference between karts and cars is in karting you learn a lot of racecraft, but it's difficult for me to comment because I've not driven every car, right? But from the cars that I have driven, cars are a lot more different to drive than karts. And there's a lot more weight in the car, first of all. So there's a lot more weight to kind of control, to manage where you want the weight, things like that. I've not done only karting. I've not driven every car, but from my experience, they do drive quite a bit differently. And the only real benefit I've seen from karting, from drivers who've gone from karting to cars, is their racecraft is really strong. But they still need to learn how to drive a car, because every car is different, especially to road tracks or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's been very valuable. I think we started off, and I was making in 2022 a lot of mistakes. I wasn't that quick, driving the car too hard, things like that. But with the help of, over the last 2 years, Ed, Charlie, my coaches, and helping the team around me and my network, and just a lot for myself as well, knowing where I need to improve, and we've managed to iron a lot of that out. So I think wherever we end up after JCC, I'm not sure yet, but I'm confident that we'll do well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that it's been an overall positive experience. You've been speaking a lot about the people around you, just there, and how they've helped you. How important is working with others? Because motorsport, I don't think people realise how much of a team sport it actually is, because it's a big part, isn't it? It's important to have people around you and a team you can work well with, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's a team sport. I don't think people realise that, because at the end of the day, it's the drivers who get screen time. It's me and the other however many lucky ones are on the grid who actually get to be on TV, and who get the, I guess, recognition for their driving. And at the end of the day, like I said, it comes down to us to drive the car. But if the car's no good in the first place, with setups off or whatever, you can't do anything, right? And I think it's important that the teams get the recognition they deserve, because they put just as much effort in as we do. And it's only us who get the screen time. It's not like football or cricket or whatever, where the whole team is getting screen time. It's just the driver. And the team and the coaches behind the scenes put just as much effort into it as we do. They just don't get as recognised for it. But it's really important. I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't be as quick as I am now, as overall rounded as I am now, without the people around me.
Yeah, without a doubt. Going into this season, obviously it's been a great one for you. Did you have a particular expectation on where you wanted to be, or is it sometimes difficult to kind of, obviously where you'd like to be, but is it sometimes difficult to predict going into a season on where you're going to sort of be lining up?
It's not even just going into a season, going into a weekend, it's always difficult to predict, because going into this season, we had one goal in mind. It was to win the championship. We came back because we were favourites, and we're on track to do that. Obviously, we'll see how this ages in 9 months' time, but we're on track to do that. And going into the seasons, we have testing different tracks, but it's always difficult to gauge, because at least with my experience, the lap times that we do in testing, we can only compare to what has previously been done. We've not got any direct comparison to what other people are doing right now, if that makes sense. It's all kind of last year, this driver did this, but we don't know what we're doing this year. So testing could be going great, but for all you could turn up in half a second off.
Mm-hmm.
We've just got to. It never generally works like that. The times you go off are generally round about there, but it could change. The grid this year and last year actually has been particularly quick. I think last year was super competitive. This year, again, really competitive. The midfield is as tight as it's ever been, I think. I've not had much experience in the midfield this year, but from what I've seen, there's a lot of drivers swapping positions, half tens or tens apart, and it takes a lot to kind of extract that final tenth. It's never really getting that first second in lap time isn't difficult. It's when you're 99% there and you need the final 3-4 tenths that separate you from pole and P4. That's the difficult part, because as you get quicker, the margin for improvement obviously gets smaller, and that's when you have to start looking at real intricacies like braking 10 meters later, or trolling off the brake a bit smoother, or even car setup, things like that. They never really come into play until you're really kind of close to where you need to be. But yeah, it's even into a weekend, like I said about the timing. Yes, you've got testing on Friday, but they aren't officially timed.
Mm-hmm.
We've only got the data we've only got our data for the times. We don't know for sure what other people are doing. I mean, sure, you can go and ask them, but whether they tell you or not, it's up to them. And you can have people timing different cars on pit walls as well, but again, it's not fully accurate. So the only gauge you've really got, especially on a Friday, is a visual gauge. The thing I was catching him was I falling back, but there's no, coming into a weekend, there's never any actual metric of where you are. I wouldn't say going blind, but you go in hopeful, I guess.
Yeah, of course. You obviously speak about how competitive the junior saloon cars are at the minute. You must enjoy that challenge, because I suppose obviously you learn a lot and it pushes you more as a driver. And I suppose that's a big thing about, with a category like the junior saloon cars, it's about learning, isn't it? So you must enjoy the challenge.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's been a really enjoyable and valuable time in the championship. Again, super competitive. But yeah, being such a competitive grid, I found especially last year, where I started the year to where I finished the year, I didn't even realise I progressed as much as I did. But I think because you are you every day, you don't see it as much. The team who only see you drive once a month, they see it more than you do. But yeah, I mean, last year, the difference in racecraft, I was having to be a lot more decisive and decisive on track, and ironing out the intricacies, like I said, as in just technique. I was a lot more consistent, a lot smoother, and yeah, in terms of racecraft, I think that's where I saw the main improvement.
Yeah. Oh,
From Cadwell last year to Brands, I think was the last round last year. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It's really competitive. But that's what you want as a driver. I'm sure a lot of drivers would say they'd love to turn up and have to fight hard for a championship. I personally would rather turn up and walk it, but it's never like that, is it? And still, to be in the position I'm in is great. It's definitely more fun to fight for race wins and for podiums, and you get more out of yourself when you're fighting, because you've got to find that extra 2-3% that you may never have found if it was a lot easier.
yeah, good. I'm glad that you've made progress, and I'm glad you obviously enjoyed your time in the championship so far. As we've said, this year's been a good one for you. Overall, how would you sum it up? Because, like you said, it's been challenging, but it's still been very successful, hasn't it? How would you sum it up overall?
This year so far has been really good. Again, I've seen a major improvement from 23 to 24, like I did from 22 to 23. I think that's just experience more than anything. Experiencing the cars, I'm a lot more comfortable with the cars and how they move around and whatnot. But yeah, this year's been good. We've only been off the podium twice, and been consistently getting points. Clean sweep Coombe, which made up for a really difficult Pembury, to be honest. Just Pembury was just a weekend, but to be honest, nobody apart from me was the issue there. I just didn't get the best out of myself. Drove how I would have driven 12 months ago, not how I should be driving now. And that was quite difficult to put behind me and move on from, especially because it's not like F1, right, where you've got three race weekends in a row. We've actually got one of, I think, the most packed season in terms of rounds for a junior championship, but we still it's 9 rounds. You've got more than one race each round, but it works out to about once a month you're actually at a track. So that 3 weeks, 3 weeks in between that you're not at a track, if you've had a bad weekend, it can start to pluck away at you, I suppose,
Mhm.
but you've got more time between actually being able to go out and prove to yourself you can do better. But yeah, Coombs exactly what we needed after Pembury. Brands again was quite difficult. We got race one, I just overdrove, being honest. Dropped the pace to Harry, and then race two we got set up a little bit wrong. Had way too much rotation on the rear, so I just couldn't get the car around the corner without it stepping out. But we learned from that. We're doing great now, and yeah, it's been good so far. But we'll see where we end up.
It's an interesting point you raised there about the period of time between race weekends, because obviously, like you say, some of them are quite lengthy periods of times. What are those, periods of time like? Because whether it's been a good race weekend or a difficult one, there's going to be a lot of emotion, lots of thoughts, lots of feelings coming out of that. How do you deal with that sort of thing? And do you reflect on it a lot, or do you try and switch off with other things? What's sort of the process like for you?
I think every driver is different with how they deal with it. I'm definitely one of the most, I'd say, switched on with it. It's always on my mind, right? I can switch off, but me switched off is different to another driver switched off, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, Me switched off, it'll still be on my mind. I just won't actively be thinking about it. Um, Whereas other drivers switching off, they can cut it out completely, which has its benefits and its negatives. It keeps you on your toes, definitely, by always having that there at the back of your mind. Um, and if it really depends if it's been a good or bad weekend. If it's been a bad weekend, you just need to, particularly after Pembury, I found that one bad weekend um, doesn't determine me as a driver. And I kept telling myself that I've done well, so many more times before than I haven't. And that's what I was kind of telling myself in the run up to Coombe. But I often find whether it's been a good or bad weekend, by the time you're actually at the track, not whether you're out on track or not, just the night before you go out on track the Thursday, that all goes away. I think for me personally, I don't know about any other drivers, but it's often it's a lot more kind of comforting when you're at a track because it's you feel like okay, I can rebuild if it's been a bad weekend or if it's been a good weekend, I can continue it on. I think it's the downtime where you've not got much going on that it's on your mind the most. But what like I said, when you're actually at the track, you don't even have to be out on track. Just even the night before the Thursday, it all goes completely away and you're focused on one thing.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Good to hear that it's been working out for you. And obviously, a great sign of that is Castle Coombe. What a great weekend for you, and must fill you with confidence going into the rest of the season because we've still got a fair few races left. You must be over the moon with how that weekend went as a whole.
Yeah, we've got 5 rounds left. I think 3 of them are triple headers. So a lot of races still to come. It's definitely not over yet. Although Coombe is the first weekend we've actually had the car bang on. Every round, through no fault of the team, but every round we've had some kind of issues with the car. Nothing major. Brands race two, we got set up a little bit wrong. Cadwell, the chassis was flexing and it wasn't handling right. And then Pembury, for all 3 of them, the rev limiter was a little bit earlier than where it should be. I was the engine was redlining, I think 500 RPMs earlier than it should be, which meant I was having to change gear earlier and not in the power bands as much, so I was a little bit slower in the straight. But we managed to sort that for Coombe. It's a good job because it's a really power kind of power-based circuit. As soon as we got it sorted, I was getting a 10th and a half into church just from not having to go to another gear. And from there on, it was I was confident. I went into Coombe not knowing the track. I knew the layout, but until you've actually driven it in real life, you're never going to learn exact braking points, surface types, elevation changes, things like that. Because as much as the sim's great and it's been a invaluable tool to me, it's but just based off the fact you're sat in a metal frame and not an actual car, it's a very different feeling. I'm more used to it because I've spent that much time in the sim, but I know a lot of drivers who haven't spent as much time in it just don't get on with the sim because a lot of the feeling you've got in a real car you don't have in a sim.
Mhm.
I know Verstappen, for example, when he's on the sim on iRacing, he turns his engine volume all the way down so he can hear the tyres better. Whereas usually in real life you'd be able to feel them, but obviously in a sim you can't. You're not actually moving around in the car. But I think having that adaptability is great. And yeah, in terms of Coombe, I knew the layout. I didn't know anything else about the track really. I didn't even know what curbs I can and can't take. Went in fairly blind. But as soon as I went out first session, I was comfortable with the track. I had a lot of people, not just from the championship, but on the socials and whatever, tell me to watch out for Quarry because that's a really sketchy corner. I was fine with it. That's the one corner I was not worried about, but apprehensive about.
Mhm.
And I was fine with it after the first few laps. And yeah, I just seemed to gel with the track. I don't particularly know what it was, but just gelled with the track and managed to string it together.
Oh, no, I'm glad, and I'm glad it all worked out for you, and it was a good weekend all round. It seems like you nailed it, and you couldn't have gone any better really for you. And obviously, wishing you all the best for the coming season. You've got plenty of tracks coming up. Is there anyone in particular you're looking forward to, or do you kind of have to approach each track equally to sort of not be too biased?
Um, I don't really have a track that I don't like, at
Mm.
least driven. I have ones that I prefer, definitely. And I have ones that I've gone better at than others, but every driver does. But yeah, in terms of tracks that I've driven, there isn't a track that I've driven that I genuinely just dislike, which I think is a good thing because coming into each round, if you come into a round knowing you haven't gone well at the track before, you're already at a disadvantage, right? Whereas, we've got Thruxton, Snetterton over the next two rounds, both those tracks I've done well at. Snetterton last year, as far as we know, we can't say for sure because, like I said, there's no official timing, but as far as we know, I could have seen testing there. Thruxton, again, was difficult last year, actually, but there was still positives to take from it, and one of my favourite tracks. And then, we've got Anglesey, Alton, Brands after. Alton testing went mega. Anglesey's a really good track for me as well. So there isn't a track coming up that isn't suited to me, I don't think.
Mm.
But we'll just take it one by one, see where we end up at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I really respect your mindset with that sort of thing. And obviously, I wish you the best of luck going into those. Just to finish off, I want to give you a minute if you want to give a shout out to your team or sponsors or family or anyone like that. I'll leave it up to you. If there's anyone you want to give a quick mention to, because I know things get busy, don't they?
Yeah, first to the team, they've been great this year. We actually came into the year, we had to move teams from 2023, and so we came into this year blind pretty much. We were really comfortable with the team we were with in 2023, but for, we eventually had to move. So 2024, it started off actually on the back foot because we weren't entirely comfortable with with MRM who we ended up going with. Not because we didn't trust them, because we didn't know them more than anything. And when you do move a team, it can be difficult because the environment's changed. You know, everything that you had at your last team, it's different people, different mechanics, things like that, different equipment even. So we were apprehensive coming to this year. Although when I first met Mike, who runs MRM at Brands, I was, you know, happy with him. I got on really well with him, and I could tell he knew what he was doing. It was even more difficult by the fact that he'd never run in a championship before. He did 3 rounds last year with Will, but he hadn't actually done a full year, and so he didn't know the cars as well as some of the other teams did. But besides that, you know, they've been amazing. Always putting so much effort in to give not just me but all of us the best tools we can to do well. And yeah, they've been. We've had a few issues. I wouldn't say issues, just kind of teething problems, getting to grips with a new car for them. But they're teething problems that haven't actually cost us really anything in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting used to it now, and that we're really flying with them. So yeah, more than happy with them. And obviously, thanks to my family and sponsors as well, who without them I wouldn't be here at all. You know, it's a privilege what I get to do. You've got to tell yourself that every day. It's important to stay grounded, and you know, it's what a lot of people don't see is the amount of work that goes in, but that goes in when it isn't a race weekend. You know, the weeks in between to actually even get to that weekend in the first place. Never mind perform well. But you know, everybody around me, all my family, sponsors, they all put so much into even allowing me to race and giving me the best equipment. And yeah, it's a pleasure what I get to do.
Yeah, very much so. Nicely done. It's been great sitting down and having a chat with you, mate. You know, if this season's been great for you so far, so really well done. And yeah, keep up the good work. I'll be at Snetterton, so looking forward to seeing you guys race in person. But until then, keep up the good work and yeah, keep having fun with it.
Thank you.